There we go. I guess I do like a little bit in the way of recycling and crafting still. As I just drilled a few holes in the bottom of this with a screw. Once I was done choking out black stuff, I gingerly sprinkled this perlite on here. Not necessarily because it's particularly useful, but because its exceptional particle size helps fill in the next largest particle size, making for an even floor. I suppose it also has some useful qualities when it comes to holding water. And no, I don't bother sorting away the dust. I just use it as it is, as I use it in such sparing quantities that... Oh, this is a volcanic glass. It's light like styrofoam. I could crush it if I weren't being delicate. Just touching it is enough to destroy it, really, to be quite honest. Now I get this stuff about 100 pounds at a time for like $10, and I use it so sparingly that it'll probably last me years unless I start putting it in the yard as well. As this is all of the peat that I'll put in these, in the sake of letting them hold moisture. Barely enough to form a layer. It's barely enough to do anything. All that it'll really do is manage to get wet. And even at that, it won't get tremendously wet. I always grab far too big a handful on top of things. After finding my super spritzer, I was able to go and get the extremely hydrophobic peat moss wet. It's extraordinarily difficult to get peat moss wet, especially when it's not a super thin layer. Let me spread that out with my finger. Cool, then I left it alone so that it could soak it up. There we go. And after a great deal of preparation, it was time for me to finally reveal what I had done so long ago. These 3 sticks I had believed were dead, and they weren't. So I left them since some point in time last year to see what happens. Huh. This one doesn't seem to have roots. This one has lots of roots. Well, this one doesn't seem to have roots. Well, how strange. How are they alive without roots? How are they alive all this time without roots? How are they alive? How are they alive without roots? Long scratch test. Long scratch test. Jesus. I'll go ahead and put those back in their pot. But this one goes special with me. I suppose I am salvaging back all of the charcoal from inside of here. Slowly but surely sifting it out with my fingers and tossing it into the bottom first. If it works, keep it going. Now that I'm done washing my hands, oof, I can goosh and gush all over the amazing roots on this cutting. My goodness, it's one of the best cuttings I've ever done. Let me find a place to sit down. Here we are. Right in the way of light. Right where I want to be. There we are. Oops. There we are. Now I'm Now I can goosh and gush all over this cutting. Just how great its roots look. My goodness, my goodness. My goodness. Just have a look at that. So many roots, and the charcoal is just embedded in there. I can see one portion right over there, right in front of the camera, where the root has grown straight through the charcoal, fracturing it. That's the kind of mechanical breakdown that I was expecting to find. Like, that is... I could goosh and gush over that forever. I'll just basically end up arranging it inside of this little container, straightening out its roots, not even trimming a thing. Okie dokie, after some gentle poking and manipulating, yeah, I can see my hand, I managed to get this sorted down into the pot. Man, that is so dark I can't see a thing. Can you see a thing? No? Well, I'll go ahead and put some dirt on top of that and then dress it. It's a chance to see if I can see any of that root structure before... How can I get the light to bounce off of that into the lens of the camera? Trying to get it to bounce into the lens of the camera. It just seems impossible to see the definition of, all the roots and just how great the mass is here inside of the pot, and just how infiltrated they've become against the chips of charcoal. Now that I've finished going and pressing in the, oh, that's a very nice view. Should have gotten there earlier. But now that I've finished pressing down all of the soil and bugs that were from the original container, now I'll go ahead and add in a little bit in the way of a top dressing, just to help hold everything in place while the roots reestablish themselves into this new environment in which there is still no competition, and a few friendly friends from before. And then, of course, naturally, after finishing pressing in the, what is this? Decomposed granite. Not with my eyes, but with my nose. I found that my cat hid something. God, fuck my very soul. Time to go wash my hands. Oh, and then now, after washing my hands, both myself and the plant get a final spritzing down from the water, so that we're both nice and clean. This will, in the process, help cement down the soil into a nice strong layer that will resist the roots, while still allowing them to eventually be penetrated. I'll press this down just a little bit more now that it's wet. And that's primarily just because I prefer to have a nice, smooth top on things, even if it is little bits of angular rock. And I do kind of anticipate that the roots will end up infiltrating even into this layer here, given time. But for now, the main purpose of the rock is just to add stability to the bush. Nothing else. Oh, empty insulin bottle. They're always useful. So, washed, watered, repotted. Everything but fertilizer. That can wait for a month or two. It'll be fine. Oof. There we are. Now I can go kick off my shoes and enjoy myself.